everyone. Today is January 14th, 2018. This is episode 129 of At Percussion, and I am not your regular host, Casey Cangelosi, but I am a regular co-host, Megan Arns, filling in for Casey today. Casey and Laurel are not joining us today, but we do have our regular co-host, Ben Charles. How's it going, Ben?
Hey, everyone, doing well.
Awesome. And we have, I have a guest here in my office, one of my graduate students, Juan.
Hi, everyone.
And our guests today make up the newly formed percussion duo with professors at Virginia Commonwealth University and the University of South Alabama. They're longtime friends since their days together at FSU, which is also where I met them in grad school. And since then, their group has performed and commissioned works that appeal to their similar tastes in contemporary, rock, pop, and classical music. They have performed concerts all throughout the United States, and they recently released their first full-length album, which is called Symmetry Reflection, in 2015. Please welcome Dr. Justin Alexander and Dr. Luis Rivera of the Novus Pucater percussion duo. How's it going, guys?
Good. Thanks for having us.
Good.
Awesome. So where are you guys today? I assume that you're Justin in Virginia and Luis, you're in Alabama?
Yes.
That's correct.
Getting ready to start the semester?
On Tuesday.
Started.
You already started. Ooh.
We've been at school for a week already.
Oh my goodness.
Look.
Yeah. We're starting on Tuesday as well. What about you, Ben?
Yeah, same on Tuesday. I actually just put up my lesson sign-up sheet, so if any of my students are listening, it's like 2 weeks after school started, and why haven't you signed for lessons yet?
Ours are electronic, so I'm about to check that after the podcast. We'll see how it's looking. Yeah, it's definitely that time of year. But anyway, it's great to have you guys on the podcast. Can you maybe just tell us a little bit about what upcoming projects you have?
So I guess the first thing that's coming up this semester on February 21st here at VCU in Richmond, Luis and I will be premiering a new concerto for two percussionists and wind ensemble by Adam Silverman. And it's a piece that we led a consortium on of a number of percussionists, particularly percussion duos, to have this piece written, and we're going to premiere it here in February and then in April down at the University of South Alabama. That's the biggest thing, I think, and maybe the first thing that we have coming up this semester.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And there are a lot of people. That was a consortium commission you mentioned. When are the other performances going to be happening?
The one here at VCU is on February 21st, which is a Wednesday, and I think it will be streamed. And then Lewis's, or the one at USA, is April 23rd,
okay.
I think.
April 24th. It's a Tuesday
24th.
night.
Cool. And then I assume the rest of the consortium will be after that.
Well, sorry. That performance will be, the one in Mobile here will be at the theater downtown where the Mobile Symphony performs.
Oh.
So it's not going to be at the normal venue of our campus hall. It's going to be actually downtown public venue. So it's going to be a nice stage. It's a nice venue. Very, very, awesome acoustics. So we're pretty excited to be staged there instead of on campus.
That's awesome. Is that common for you guys?
No, well, it's common if there's like big events, which I'm not saying we're a big event, but normally in Alabama, at least for the band side of things, the ABA Association, when they have their all-state festivals, it rotates in different cities every year. And when we hosted it last couple of years, we hosted all of the big concerts down there at the Sanger Theater, downtown Mobile. This year, the scheduling was weird with our spring break, and luckily, the department here was able to rent out the venue, and the wind ensemble concert will be downtown this coming spring.
Awesome.
I had a couple questions to follow up on that. One, could you tell us a bit, and I've suffered through the same thing, about being in a long-distance duo, and in particular about leading a commission with that, because it's kind of difficult to not be in the same place geographically as a composer, where you can't get together and sort of show them other things that you've done, although I'm assuming you have video footage or something that you've shown. And then, Justin, also in particular for you, I'm assuming that you're working with Dr. Terry Austin on this premiere?
Correct, yes.
Could you tell us about working with Dr. Austin? I got to work with him quite a bit, actually, when I was in high school, because I'm originally from Richmond, Virginia. So really good guy and really influential on my music education.
Cool. It's a twofer. Lewis, why don't you take the first one, and I'll take the second one, obviously.
Okay, so you're talking about long distance professional relationship. It's as far as chatting with composers and talking with them or with other performers and either sharing ideas or sharing either footage or files of what we've done in the past. Pretty much nowadays, that's not really that difficult. I mean, look at what we're doing right now. It's a free app that is available on computers, phones, and tablets, basically to anybody. And using and consuming the app is also free for other people who want to see. So really, the interaction and the sharing of information and ideas, that is super easy nowadays. Now, in terms of performing and practicing and rehearsing, so we basically, beginning of each year, maybe beginning of each semester, as far as myself and Justin, we kind of figure out where we are going to be performing. We figure out what we want to program at each of those events. We will do our own kind of individual practice, preparation, all that stuff. And then what we try to do is probably about 2 or 3 days before we get to, or before whatever the concert is, we will get together at that place, and usually about a day, 2 days gives us enough time to rehearse all that we need, make sure logistically we've got everything worked out as far as we have all the instruments and all the hardware that we need, and then we just after a couple of days of rehearsal, then we feel pretty comfortable in putting on a performance. So I'm pretty sure that's pretty common for a lot of other groups and ensembles that do that nowadays that aren't in the same city or the same state even.
Yeah, and for instance, in April when I go to Alabama to do the concerto, the end of that week we're going to Brownsville for the Brownsville Marimba Festival where Joe Moore is teaching. And so I'll just stay in Alabama that whole week and play the concerto on Tuesday, and then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, whatever, we'll get together and rehearse, and then we'll head down to Brownsville. So it doesn't always work out that way, obviously, that we have a couple of things in a row like that, but this semester it'll be pretty luxurious, I think, for us to have like 4 days to rehearse. Normally we get about 2, maybe 1. And in the past, when we've done stuff like last spring, we did a tour of Arkansas, Oklahoma. Where else did we go?
Last year we just went to those 2 states. Yeah.
Yeah. So we did like 3 or 4 dates in a row. We just had the rep, and we worked it up for a few days beforehand, and then we toured with it so that we just kept the same rep going on, obviously. But the end of this semester will be nice because we'll have a full week to basically rehearse for this Marimba Festival gig. The second part of your question, working with Terry, I'm assuming that you worked with him in Grywe?
Yeah, it's the high school honor band in Richmond.
Yeah, which is about to start up in a couple weeks.
Is that an acronym for something?
Yeah, Greater Richmond Youth Wind Ensemble.
Ah, got it.
Yeah. Grywe. I did a percussion ensemble with them now, but the acronym would be GRIPE, so I call it that. I just don't call it anything. I just take the percussionists out for an hour. We could do percussion ensemble with them. So Terry's been fantastic. Terry's the director of bands, Terry Austin at VCU. He's past president of American Bandmasters Association, big guy in the band world, and he was on both of my. No, he wasn't. He was on my first search when I got a visiting job, and then he was really helpful with the second search and with basically all of my stuff at BCU so far. I'm going up for third year review this semester, and he's the chair of my committee, so he's been really, really helpful to me. I've played another concerto with his group, Riffs for drum set and wind ensemble, the Tyzik, and we keep talking about someday doing the Schwanner together. So he's just been fantastic. I can't speak highly enough for him. He's always super willing to help. He's got great advice. He's been at VCU for, if not 30 years, then close to 30. So he knows the landscape really well. He has great advice. He's like an unofficial mentor for me. So I can't say enough great things about him. And he was willing to do this with us sort of. He was in Japan this past fall for the entire fall. So he's stepping back into wind ensemble this spring and immediately doing a new piece, a 6-movement concerto. So I applaud him for that.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, going back to the first part of your question, dealing with the long distance, I feel like we've had this conversation several times, and most recently it was with another percussion duo we had on Escape 10 a few weeks ago, and they were just saying, you said that you had the second gig, and they were saying that that's a big part of them being able to do what they do, is being able to plan gigs together, to plan in advance, and not together, the two of them, but to be able to, have multiple events in each visit. And most importantly, that they learn their music so well in advance, and they send each other recordings and practice to MIDI files and things like that, just so that when they're together, they can make the most of it. So it sounds similar in your case. I wonder if this would have been possible, 50 years ago to have these long distance duos, but I think with technology, it probably would be, but it makes it so much easier with technology, I think.
Yeah, and we're going to have to do it again right in February because, Lewis will only be able to come in for one rehearsal with the band before the show.
Yeah.
So, we both have MIDI files of the concerto and working on our parts and stuff, but
yeah,
we'll have a Monday rehearsal and then we'll have like a Wednesday spot check kind of thing, and then Wednesday night is the show. So yeah, like they were saying, it is a matter of like being really comfortable with your part and with Lewis's part or whoever you're playing with, so that you know really what's going on. In a duo especially, you're fairly exposed.
Right.
So you really have to know what the other person's doing.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Awesome. Well, it sounds like you guys are up to some cool stuff. That's really great. Let's move on to a topic next. So, Ben, you've got a topic from Laurel, right?
Yes, that is correct. And it's funny because when I was reading Laurel's notes, I'm going to sound like Laurel when I read her topic. Laurel wanted to talk today about goal setting with a sense of realism to avoid relapse into old habits and the psychology of setting unrealistic goals. And she did her research from Mindful Magazine that she talks about quite often on the podcast from their January 2018 edition. There's an article called You Say You Want a Resolution by Elaine Smukler. And then there's also a book called Walking in This World by Julia Cameron. It is the sequel to her book, The Artist's Way. Laurel says to us, it's a new year, a new semester, and a time when many of us set our goals for the next few months, if not the full year ahead. Pieces to learn, recitals to present, competitions to take, things to write, and of course, goals of fitness, personal transformation, and action-based causes. Sticking to them is another matter. If they're too out of reach, the daunting task is unmotivating. If they require a complete change of self, there's a chance that old, ingrained habits will beat out new drive. If they require a dependence on other people, well, then the problem is obvious. Here are 4 suggestions on setting an achievable resolution or goal. Number 1, start with awareness. Visualize yourself following through. Does it give you strength, energy, and focus? Hint, it should. Number 2, stay realistic. If you set a large goal, complement it with small tasks for yourself that can be accomplished in a day. More on this later. Number 3, make a plan. Chances are your goal will take time, so you're going to have to think ahead to make it possible. Number 4, Prevent a relapse. Notice what's happening with you when you start to abandon your resolution/goal. Which emotions are taking over? What inner voice is speaking the loudest? Which criticism can't you shake? And Walking in This World, author Julia Cameron writes, creativity thrives on small, doable actions. Most artists get blocked not because they have too few ideas, but because they have too many. When an anxious block emerges, or a relapse, as we referred to it, the goal is to move energy out of you to easily and slowly free the logjam of blocked momentum. Do, don't just talk. Even if the doing is cleaning a room in your apartment, it will help rid something. Similarly, maybe you need to finish something you've already started as to remove it from your mental space. Creative goals and ideas take precise action, not vague daydreaming thought. Large ideas are accomplished by consistent, small actions taken every day. For example, if your goal is to take a competition in the summer, you need to know when you need to have all the music learned in order to feel comfortable and work backward from there. First, buy the music. Check for early deadlines. Is there a taped prelim round? Is there an early bird registration? If you aren't already a dedicated practice demon, you're going to need to become one. What small actions does that entail? If you suffer from performance anxiety, you'll need to address it. How can you do that in the months of prep? Once you figure out your basic learning schedule, you need to flesh it out by week, then by day in order to stay on track, or ahead of it, which would be even better. When it gets overwhelming, make a list of 10 things you learned to do despite your doubt you could. If overstretched goals are your go-to, you may wind up reaching a point where failure becomes excusable, acceptable, and expected. This could lead to low self-esteem, particularly if you are always holding yourself to unrealistically high standards on a daily basis. Guard yourself against inadequacy by setting goals that gently push you towards how you would like to be, rather than requiring a complete overhaul of your habits. So, to use the above example, if you aren't a good practicer, a goal of a competition may not be the best for you, but perhaps aiming for 4 studio class performances is a way to get there, or entering a concerto competition, probably only one movement, not nearly an hour's worth of music. Or aim to make a video of the piece you're playing. The pressure in those situations builds to competition pressure, but they allow for competency to shine through without an all or none result. So thank you, Laurel, for the excellent topic today and very relevant as we start our new year and new semester here.
That's awesome. I love that. I just love the taking small pieces of it and not just tackling the whole thing. And actually, I had a small revelation with that myself and my to-do list. I don't know how you guys keep your to-do lists, but I like to have mine on paper. It doesn't work for me electronically. My calendar is electronic, but my to-do list is on paper. And one of my students, John, was telling me about, he was sitting outside my office and writing in his journal, and it was so organized and neat, and I was like, oh, what you got there, John? And he was telling me, he's like, oh, it's a bullet journal, it's like the newest thing. I was like, oh, okay, I have no idea what that is. And so in kind of an effort to connect with him, we started talking more about it, and I decided to try out the method. So I looked up, there's a bunch of videos online on YouTube about it, and it's a method of journaling in addition to being an actual list, but it's just bullets instead of lines in a journal if you actually buy the actual journal. But the concept of it is that it's more of a reflection. You're supposed to reflect on it for 5 minutes a day, at the beginning and the end of the day. And that rather than writing down everything that you have to do, which I used to do, and then I would start crossing them off and then rip out the page and recopy the stuff I didn't do, and it's getting out of control, especially in a time of year like this when you have so much stuff to do. Just start doing it. It was a mess. So anyway, this bullet journal, it gives you kind of shorthand notation, and when you reach the end of a page, or the end of 2 pages, actually, it's in a modular format. You turn the page and you have to reflect on what you had on that first page, and it causes you to either migrate things into the next set of pages or to cross them off because you realize, okay, I actually didn't need to do that, or it became irrelevant as the time passed. But it also sets things up with an index, with a daily log, with a monthly log, and with a future log. And these phrases might not make sense to you guys, but if you're interested in a new way of having a to-do list or a journal, you might check out the bullet journal. Have you guys heard of this before?
Yeah. So I had stumbled across someone that said something about it a couple weeks ago, and so I looked it up because I've been using a bunch of different things. Like I feel the same way. I like to write on paper, but I was using Google Keep for a while to do like lists and like long-term stuff, and some of that was because at VCU we use Google for everything, and we could share sort of to-do lists between faculty members, like if two people were working on a project or something. So I was using Google Keep for a little bit online, and I still use it for like some stuff at work, but I've always been looking for better ways of doing to-do lists and productivity kind of stuff. So when someone mentioned this bullet journal, I went and watched the videos, and I went out and I didn't buy one of those, but I just bought a regular journal and sort of
set it up in that way.
Yeah. And I've been doing it for about a week, and so far it's great. It's, I think for me, it's always going back to like whatever system that you're going to use is fine, but you have to kind of commit to it for a while. It's not a like cure-all that's going to make suddenly your life so much more productive. But it is, I do appreciate sort of the migrating feature of the bullet journal so that you can, if it's taking me 3 months to get around to something, it's probably really not worth doing. And like I can see that, or theoretically I should be able to see that coming up. So I'm excited to see what it does.
I was thinking about New Year's resolutions, and from what I thought about Laurel's topic for quite a bit. When I was thinking of New Year's resolutions, it seems that there are two types. It seems that there are what I'll call action-based and there are goal-based. So, and this is my terminology I'm making up here, but action-based would be I'm going to exercise every day, and goal-based would be I'm going to lose 100 pounds. I think that the action-based ones are a lot more effective. Casey had a thing a while back. He was talking about I think it was called literally the what the hell concept, where if you've already ruined your diet, you don't feel guilty about eating a candy bar because it's like, oh, what the hell? I'm not going to lose 100 pounds this year anyway. Let me just eat a candy bar. Whereas the action-based ones, I'm going to practice every day, or I'm going to work out every day, or whatever your thing may be, I think are a lot more effective because if you do miss, it's not like you've completely fallen off the horse and you can still get back into it. And one of my favorite lessons I ever learned was from Mark Ford, and I think he actually stole this from Michael Colgrass, and it's there are only certain days that we practice. We only practice on days that we eat. And I've tried to convey that to my students, and I would love it if like all my students could have that sort of action-based goal of I'm going to practice every single day. And like I said, if you miss a day, especially if you're traveling or something like that, it's not the end of the world. You just missed a day, just get back on the horse and do the next day. But if your goal is I'm going to practice for 500 hours this semester, I haven't done the math to see if that's a reasonable amount or not. But whatever the case, whatever number you come up with, if it's the end of the semester and you can't possibly make that goal, you're just going to kind of give up at that point.
Yeah. Anyone have any New Year's resolutions? I don't think we talked about this last week. Anyone? One.
Just say practice every day.
Well, that's one of those. But the other one is be more organized overall, because I'm usually a really disorganized person. And, I'm starting to set up my own rituals and stuff. I'm starting small. Reading is one of those. Okay. And I'm working with an action-based goal, as Ben was saying, of reading X amount of pages every day. So it works. Yeah. At least for me, it's working.
I had one a few years ago. It's not right now, but a few years ago, I made it a goal to play Bach every single day. And I think I missed like 2 or 3 days the entire year. But yeah, I played Bach every single day for, I think it was 2014 I did that. That's the only New Year's resolution I've ever made.
Nice.
I don't know about you all. I mean, practicing every day would be nice. That's like my New Year's resolutions this year. I want to write more, just words, not music, and read more than I have been. But like when I'm working, like practicing is like the first thing to go. Like when I get stuck with emails or whatever else. I mean, I'm doing some admin stuff this semester, so I'm curious, like, what y'all's sort of plans are for that. Because I know, like, as soon as whatever happens, like, I'm doing the scheduling this year for the department, and, like, that's a lot of time and a lot of energy, and the first thing to go is practicing.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I agree. I definitely struggle with that. I think the only solution I have found is just to make sure I schedule a lot of performances, you know?
Yeah.
And because then I'm forced to do it, and I know that it's never going to be as, I was going to say as relaxed as it was in graduate school. Graduate school is definitely not relaxed, but the focus is so much more on practicing because you're held accountable for a weekly lesson. And, you know, our teachers, all of my teachers that I'm sure you guys too, is that you're never going to have as much time to practice as you do in grad school. Do it now, or in school, period. And not just graduate school. But I was like, oh yeah, sure, I'm sure, because when I have a job, if I get a job, you know, I'm going to be teaching percussion. I'm going to practice all the time. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
Wrong. And there's all this admin stuff and organizing, and, you know, you're mentoring all these people, which is awesome. I love all of that. But I really have found that you have to take time for yourself, and part of that time is keeping up your craft. So, yeah, for me, the only solution I have found is just to make sure I have a lot of performances on the books at first, like early, because then when it comes to the extra admin stuff, I have to say no sometimes if it's stuff that you don't have to do.
Yeah.
Laurel had a great Facebook status a while back, and it's one of my favorite Facebook statuses I've ever seen, actually. Laurel said, I have a new rule that I have to warm up on every single instrument in my office before I respond to emails, or before I open my computer, or something like that. I think, yeah, prioritizing things for early in the day is a good thing, because it's so easy to push practice back to later in the day, and then it's 8 o'clock and you haven't had dinner yet and you really don't feel like it.
Yeah. So true.
Unfortunately, there's too many other factors that are out of our own control. So admin, emails, all that stuff. So you can be it's one of those, kind of like what Megan said, that you can be as highly organized as you want, but I try to just book myself, a lot of performances and things like that, so that I'm forcing myself to, essentially. Because I think we're just in a profession where you can be as organized as possible, and then there's still just going to be fires put out everywhere that'll come up every day, things that you will never think about. That then you just are like, all right, well, that plan is out the window.
Yeah.
And now you're going to take care of this.
So
And you just got to do it.
Yep. Well, I'm curious to hear more about your guys' album, because you were so kind to send me a copy when it first came out, and then I just came back to it, prepping for our chat with you. But I noticed on your website that it says that each track, kind of the theme that holds all this together, is that each track kind of utilizes a process in a unique way. And of course, you can hear that when you're listening to the album. But I thought maybe you could tell us more about how that all ties together and what your process of choosing the tracks. I know they're not all commissioned pieces, so you chose a lot of repertoire and chose people to commission. What was that like?
It was fun. The pieces that we did commission. So it was the Christopher Adler piece, Ivan Trevino piece, and both Steve Gisby pieces that were on there. Mm-hmm. Those just came by, through things that we do either in school or outside of school. And just kind of growing the network and meeting new people and making new contacts, and then those just kind of grew. The commissions just kind of grew out of those relationships. So I think from that point of view, that getting all that stuff together and organized was fun. It was fun putting it together, and then it just so happened to work out that type of music, that process music, minimalist, post-minimalist music, is a style that both myself and Justin like to perform and listen to a lot. And the composers that we are highlighting on the album all have done process pieces in some way. And we thought that it would be cool as kind of, quote unquote, a concept album, so to speak, that we make an album that is all process music, but every single process is different. All of the composers treat process or an aspect of process in their own way. And obviously instrumentation too affects that to a certain extent. And we just thought it was a cool idea. We hadn't really seen or heard of any other things like that, I don't think, before we, up till that point, which is now almost 2.5 years ago. So that's kind of where we were coming from on that aspect. And so then once we were, working with the composers and kind of, putting things together, we were pretty excited about it and pretty pleased with the result of the music, like all of the musical selections all together. We were pretty happy with that. And then so we just then went on to record, and that was a whole other adventure in and of its own. But
I know you said it was produced by Matt Filosa from Synced Up Designs. Were you guys recording with him also then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So
the whole process.
Yeah. So Matt Filosa and Brian Nazni were the engineers for the disc. We recorded the whole album in my office. So Megan, you've been to my office.
Yeah.
Before. So what we did was we cleared out all of the desks and all the extra instruments that we didn't use. And the reason we chose that is because it was a dry environment. It's a completely soundproof room. When you clear everything out of there, we were able to actually fit all of our setups pretty comfortably in the office. So that was a fun, that was going through that process was kind of fun, just because we hadn't done that before.
Yeah.
And then, just kind of right outside of my office, they set up the control station, the recording booth, and we just made my office a studio, and we recorded everything there. So, we did that over the course of a week, right, Justin?
Yeah.
Recorded everything about a week and a half.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's definitely, for those of you out there who want to record process pieces, just prepare yourselves. It's going to take a little longer than you think.
Yeah, the Gisby stuff, symmetry reflection, it's basically just additive scales. But my God, you get like into 7, 8, 9 note scales, and you have to play them like 28, 27 times in a row, and then the other person has to play them going the opposite direction at the same time. It got
It's in your head a little bit.
It was hard.
It was hard. That was definitely the hardest thing we've ever done for a recording. That was the hardest thing we've ever.
Yeah, for a recording.
We've ever done by far.
I'm just curious about the Nongok piece. That was the Adler, right?
Yes.
Do you know much about the influence of that? I mean, you hear like a lot of South Asian influence, almost gamelani or something. What's up with that? It's an awesome piece.
So, if you remember from the inaugural year of Newsnorth,
yes,
when the three of us were there,
yes,
Christopher Adler did a presentation on his music one of those days. And one of the pieces that he was presenting about was Nongok, which originally is a piano solo that he composed. And he played it for us at the conference. And when I heard it, I just kind of looked over to Justin and I said, hey, this would kind of work as a really cool, mallet percussion piece, whether that or this style, it's repetitive, and the changes in melodies are very you know, if you didn't know that it was Adler, it could very easily, just the way that the composition worked, it could easily be perceived as a Steve Reich piece.
Totally.
So I just mentioned to Justin that, hey, this piece would work really, really well or this type of piece would work really well for mallet percussion. And then the end of that conference, last night, we were all at Omar's house, all having, the last, dinner of the conference, and Chris was there. And so we got to talking, and he was telling us a little bit about that piece in particular. And basically then what ended up happening was we asked him if he would do an arrangement of that work, but where each player would have a marimba and vibraphone that they played at the same time. He had never thought of that before. He had never done anything like that before. So he thought about it. He said, get back to us, and he got back to us. And that was it. So the piece the arrangement that he made was what you hear on the album there. And yeah, we were really happy with it. So basically the piece that he played, or the part that he played at the conference, he just rearranged that. He had to adjust a few things from the original, but he just arranged it so that it could be played by a duo on 2 instruments each.
Cool.
Yeah. So and the influence of the music itself is Korean folk music. So it's a particular style of Korean music, and I don't have a copy of the liner notes on me right here, but it's a folk tradition from Korea, and I believe it's from Korean farmers. It's a style of music from, if I remember correctly, from Korean farmers.
Okay.
I believe it's influence from there.
Awesome. Okay, so I wanted to bring up next unless you guys had anything else about the album. Good. Okay. I wanted to tell a story next because Lewis and Justin and I were in graduate school at Florida State together, and we had applied to play for a competition to play at Carnegie Hall. There are like chamber groups that you could apply as a chamber group, and I think one day, one of us was like, we're not a chamber group, but we play together all the time in percussion ensemble and in chamber percussion ensembles. Like, why don't we just slap a name on this group that basically already exists in several formats and apply to this competition? Let's drive our stuff up to New York City and play at Carnegie Hall. Well, we submitted our application, and we didn't get it, but we got second place, which apparently was going to Costa Rica as part of this Promising Artists of the 21st Century program, which is a cultural exchange program through the North American Cultural Center in Costa Rica. And they sent us there for a week during spring break. And it was like, oh, that's better than playing at Carnegie Hall, maybe.
Yeah, I didn't know that was second place.
Yeah, I know. I don't know if it was actually second place, but they had seen our application and thought that we would be a good candidate for this program for whatever reason. I mean, I think a lot of reasons, but so anyway, we were like, sure, that's great, let's do it. And so our teacher, John Parks, helped us pick out repertoire, and it was tricky because we weren't going to have a lot of gear at every place that we were going to play. So we really had to choose our repertoire based on what was available to us and what we could carry on the plane, or all of us check on the plane without spending a lot of money to check extra bags. So we planned out several different types of programs, and they ranged from playing in the National Theater downtown in Costa Rica, to playing at universities and meeting the students there, to doing outreach in a little more remote or rural places where we were working with the students and doing masterclass type things. And it was awesome. It was an amazing trip. We got to see quite a bit of the country while we were at it and eat a lot of amazing food. And while we were there, we met this eager young student named Juan, who I remember was asking all these questions, and he had this notebook, and he was writing down everything like it was just golden information. Of course, it was golden information coming from Justin and Lewis. But no, I just remember him being very eager and interested in what we were doing, which was really great. It made us feel at home and feel like we were doing good work there. So Juan and I kept in touch over the past 8 years or so, and he applied to graduate school here, and we talked about, him coming to graduate school in the States, and now here he is. It's amazing. So
it's a whole experience.
Yeah, I just thought that was a good story to tell, and to invite Juan on the podcast today, since you guys were going to be on. But do you have any memories from that trip that particularly stood out to you?
A lot of food. A lot of good food.
I know.
And I ended up getting sick one of those days.
Oh.
You ate too much food.
Yeah, I ate too much. I could say some bad seafood or something where the rest of you guys went to like a market. They took you to like a downtown market, and I had to pass. I had to stay in my room.
Yeah, that was at the end.
For that day.
A lunch concert that we did.
Yes, that was at the National Theater, I think.
Yeah, it was like packed out at lunch. It was awesome. It was like people would come by, they'd bring their lunch and come listen to it. It was a free concert. Just in the city, would come and bring their lunch to this theater and sit down. And we played. I think we did like Marimba Spiritual and Third Construction, and we did some fife and drum stuff.
Yeah.
With Megan on fife. I remember that concert specifically because I was kind of blown away. I was like, man, at least where I was at the time and where I'm at now, we don't have like lunchtime concerts. And we've actually started something at VCU where we're trying to do 5:45 preview concerts, like the week of an orchestra concert or something. We'll do on a Tuesday a 5:45 half-hour concert for all the community members of VCU, basically, to come by like after work for half an hour and listen to a preview for a concert. But that always made me go back and think about that lunchtime concert that we did in Costa Rica, because I thought it was really I don't know, that was just really special.
Yeah, there's so many people there.
And they were so excited about it. I mean, it was the most excited audience. It was great.
Do you know if that happens every day?
The lunch concerts?
Yes.
I don't remember if it happens every day. I think it's once a week. I'm honestly not sure. But it's something that is still happening. Like, you still have those lunchtime concerts. So they invite a lot of different groups. So it's a good thing that the ones that you guys did was packed, because it shows that there's like a public of
interest.
Yeah, there's interest in percussion as well. So I mean, thanks to that is that I got the chance to see your group. I didn't go to that concert, but I was in the music school that you guys went after that. And I remember that it was the first time I saw the cajon piece.
The Andy.
And I was really amazed because I usually see the cajon in another context. So seeing it being played in a completely different setting was really amazing. Adding to that the rest of the repertoire. But I thought for a moment of the implications of having a group from the United States playing in those areas, like outside the capital city, and what it means to people like me that just are from really faraway places. And we don't usually have the opportunity to see this kinds of acts.
Yes.
So, and when I think about it, it's kind of funny because if I didn't see that back then, I'll probably wouldn't be here studying my master's. So I don't know. It kind of feels like full circle. I was telling Dr.
Right.
Arns about it. So I don't know. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for inviting us.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was back in Costa Rica last week, actually, for a wedding, and I visited Juan's hometown. It was cool. We spent the day together. His mom cooked us a delicious meal. Oh, my gosh, it was so good. We walked around, and we walked to the beach, and we had this dessert called the churchill.
Yeah.
Did I say it right?
Kind of.
Can you say it right?
Churchill.
What is that?
It depends on who you ask, but it's shaved ice with powdered milk and condensed milk and fruits and
ice cream. With
ice
milk.
cream.
Ice
Yeah.
cream.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's delicious.
It's delicious and very large.
Sounds good.
I also remember a crazy good salsa band that we saw one night.
Yes, I know.
And I think I'm losing my train of thought. The guy playing timbales, I think he was a student at one of the schools that we played a concert at, but he was like an amazing timbale player. I just remember going to that bar one night and seeing that band, and I was really blown away.
Yeah, I went back and looked at our pictures, and I think it was Manrique Mendez. Am I saying his name right?
Yeah.
Yeah, who had taken us there. I think he was the director,
Well,
the
was that
percussion
the-
teacher at
The University of Costa Rica.
the University of Costa Rica.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
That was the guy who showed us. He had like a friend, like a banker friend or whatever, that builds cajones on the side.
Oh.
Was that the guy? When
I don't remember.
He took us to his office.
Oh,
Yes.
maybe. Yeah. I forgot
Yeah, he
about
took
that.
us to his office. He showed us, the cajones that his friend built. Because we were there, we did a presentation there, didn't we?
Yes.
Yes.
That was that same day.
Yes. So anyway, I just wanted to bring up that story. I love retelling that story. It's amazing. Cool.
What year was that?
Sorry, what?
What year was that?
2010.
2010.
Okay.
March of 2010. Yeah.
Yeah.
So while we still have you guys here in the last few minutes, I just want to bring up a topic that has come up very frequently in the past year or so on the podcast, and is everywhere. But talking about diversity in programming and just diversity and inclusion in the university, and things that are very current topics. And in the most recent New Music USA newsletter that came out, there was a highlight about John Mackey and how at the Midwest Clinic, which is the largest band and orchestra clinic in the United States, and thousands of people attend this, and there are clinics and concerts and master classes in Chicago, and the band world is still predominantly male and predominantly white, and so we're facing a lot of these issues that we're also facing in the university and just in orchestras and in programming. And so what John Mackey did is he said, well, instead of getting a composer booth for myself and promoting my own music, which I'm already obviously doing very well, he decided to rent a booth, and he just wrote on Facebook and said, would anyone who is a minority gender or a non-white composer would like to present their music and attend the Midwest Clinic and present your music in this booth free of charge? I'm offering this booth up for those people. And he was overwhelmed by the response. Lots of people were interested. And I guess it was a very successful booth. And it reminded me of the PASIC booth in a way of Elliot Cooper Cole and Rob Honstein, the living room music booth, in the way that they're self-published composers, another topic that we talk about very frequently here on the podcast. But also these composers were self-published. So, yeah, there's a great article about it in the New Music USA, and Yeah, I thought it was really great. Did you guys see this article or hear about this event at all?
Yeah, I just read about it this morning. The article that you sent us to kind of look over. I thought that was a really cool idea. And it seems like some of the composers were able, or at least one of the women who wrote about it said she was able to sell some scores and build make new contacts and make new friends and things like that as a result. I thought it was a really cool idea, and it was good that people took advantage of that and were able to kind of get their foot in the door in a different way, but they got their foot in the door.
Yeah, I wonder if you imagine that it would have caused this much buzz, because not only was it probably good for those composers, but also it's just continuing to beat us with this topic of like, we need to do something about this. He wrote, there's a fact in the article that of the 500 pieces that were performed at the Midwest Clinic, only 23 pieces, which is 4.6%, were composed by women, and only 71 pieces, or 14.2%, were written by composers of color. So, I mean, those are just cold, hard facts that, it's not terrible. It's just like, that's the way it is. And are we actually being representative of who is composing music and who exists in the world? So, yeah, we talk about this on the podcast all the time, but do you two have any thoughts about this, or is this conversation happening in your university as well? I know, Justin, we had some conversations about this when I came to visit in the spring or in the fall.
Yeah, it's a big thing at universities all across the country. At VCU, there are a few initiatives that are going on to sort of try to address some of the inequities among the ratio of sort of faculty of color versus white faculty. We've got in the School of the Arts, this thing that was started a couple of years ago it's called I-Cubed, which is 3 I's, the Inclusion and Fusion Initiative. And it's brought, basically, VCU is opening a new Museum of Contemporary Art called the ICA, Institute for Contemporary Art, at the end of this year. And as a part of this, VCU has brought in, I believe it's 4, maybe 3, maybe 4, artists, sort of renowned artists of color, to come in and work in the ICA for the year, doing exhibits and working around Richmond and doing lots of projects. So one person who's in this year is a guy named Paul Rucker, who by training is a bass player and a cellist, but he's actually gotten more into visual art lately. But super interesting guy. One of the things that he's done since he's been here, though, is that he makes hot sauce. So he started this. It doesn't have to do with his art, but I was meeting him the other day. What?
Have you tasted it?
I haven't yet, but he's starting this company that basically employs formerly incarcerated people to make this hot sauce in Richmond, and he's decided, he moved here for the year, but he's decided he's going to buy a house and stay here because he likes the city so much. But
wow.
But he's also he's had a couple of Guggenheims, I think, so he's a big deal in the art world. And but yeah, this topic is all over the place at the university, at least. And I know my wife works at a university as well, and they have some programs that are designed to hire and hire people of color for or people who are considered minorities for positions that convert to tenure track lines. Mm-hmm. that set them up to get tenure track lines at other institutions. So that's been a good start, at least. But I have to say, I was reading the article. And this is my first year to go to Midwest, too. I went this year just to go to kind of see it, and it's overwhelming to anyone. that there was mention of like a diversity committee, I think, at Midwest, which is fine, which is a good start. But I know at the university, at least, it's a bit of a pitfall because what happens is you have a lot of faculty of color or minorities who get sort of roped into serving on diversity committees for the department, for the school, for the university, and actually it puts their service kind of over the top at the expense of their research or their teaching or the things that would actually promote them. So it's just something to be aware of, like the idea of starting a diversity committee is great. But if you're continuing to burden people of color to serve on all of these diversity committees or to come up with all the answers at the expense of the things that will actually promote them, like research and teaching, it's just something to watch out for. I think it's easy to fall into that with good intentions, but not being aware of what's actually happening.
Okay, I can actually speak on that. First-hand experience. I've been assigned to our College of Arts and Sciences Diversity Committee for the last, 3 or 4 semesters in a row. And I fall into the trap that at least what it seems like a lot of my other colleagues fall into is we get these assignments and then we end up not being able to participate in all of the meetings that they schedule. Just because our teaching schedule is not a normal, like we have a couple of classes and then that's it. We've got normal classes, we've got lessons, and we've got ensembles, and then we've got our extracurricular activities. And yes, on the one hand, it's very good. It's very good to have these committees to kind of help keep the topic on the forefront of people's minds. But there's the other part of that where it's also difficult to get everybody in a room together to discuss. I know that a lot of the committee meetings here are just mass emails, and we just kind of discuss the meeting in minutes over email, and try and do kind of what we can to kind of work around the scheduling logistics of those. No, you're fine.
I was just going to say, speaking about the Midwest thing, I don't know the answer. The diversity committee is probably a good start, but like the band and orchestra world is white men, overwhelmingly, and I think all of us are trying to do some small part to address that. But it would be nice to see like the Midwest organization address it like a much larger scale. Right. And maybe they are. Maybe they're working on it. I hope so. Right. But it was a good.
I know from my end, in terms of a small part that when I'm programming repertoire, I always try to think of time periods and historical significance, and then within that, trying to have different cultures at least represented. And I think doing that, as far as like from our perspectives as ensemble directors and things, I think that's one thing that we definitely have to keep doing. I think at our institution, I think our directors do a good job of that, and with a bunch of the recent hirings that we've had, and particularly at USA, I think too, because of that too, that's also, as an indirect result, what people are choosing to program for our concerts here. I think it's a very diverse, set of types of pieces, genres represented. Now, I'm not sure the demographics on the genders of the composers specifically, which is what this article was kind of talking about primarily. But I think Mackey did what he kind of did. I think the reason that it was such a big deal is because nobody's done that before, and it's not conventional. And there was a couple sentences in there about the exhibit hall, like staff or whatever, thought, there was like, they had to make sure that they were following all of the rules and whatnot because people didn't think it was actually true, or the way that they were going about it wasn't actually a thing. Which I thought that was funny. I read that, I laughed.
Yeah.
Because I could just imagine what that process was like, and all those composers that were walking in there like, yeah, it's already been bought. And,
yeah.
we're just here to go to the booth. That's all we're.
Yeah.
That's all we're here for.
Exactly.
Like, I can imagine that process being probably frustrating for them, but from an outsider's perspective, it's kind of a little funny.
It's kind of funny. Yeah. Yeah, and the actual direct quote of what he wrote on Facebook was that he was offering it up free of charge to self-published composers who are people of color and or identify as women. So just to clear that up, I wasn't super specific about that before. But yeah, I just thought that was cool, and it's nice that they wrote the article on it as well. And it's cute, like his Facebook message, he's like, are you attending the Midwest Clinic? And he tags the Midwest Clinic too. So like he did it the right way. I think it's cool just to raise attention and to raise his voice a little bit.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, and also just one other thing I wanted to add to that is that, PASIC applications are due tomorrow, which it'll be over by the time this episode airs. But PASIC applications are due tomorrow.
Tuesday.
Oh, Tuesday. I thought it was the 15th.
Yeah, they extended it.
They extended it.
Oh, to the 16th.
Yeah, because I still got to finish one. So.
Yeah, me too. That's good. I think that they did a great job of especially Julie Hill reaching out. They made a video this year of like making the application process, make sure it was explained super well and also encouraging people. And I'm on the diversity committee, or I get their emails at least, and they said, reach out to 2 people. Yeah, exactly like Lewis. Like, I can't go to the meetings, but whatever. Just keep me on the email list, whatever. But really saying, like, today, email 2 people that you don't think know about PASIC or you don't think will apply, and encourage them to apply and encourage them to help them apply or whatever. So I just thought that it's nice to have that extra push towards the end, because sometimes it's like, oh, that would be nice. Oh, that would be nice. Oh, we should do that. Oh, we should do this. But, for the people that are actually really taking action, I think Julie Hill's one of those people who's really, really, really pushing, even as past president, to make sure the face of PAS is more diverse and the membership, the makeup of it is more, represents the world of percussion.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. It was great to have you on and hear from you. I hope to have you again on someday. And best of luck with the upcoming premiere of the Silverman Concerto. And for those of you listening, if you haven't listened to their album, take a listen. It's free. It's out there on the interwebs, on SoundCloud. So check it out, and you'll be grooving for sure. So, Ben, thanks again. Juan, thanks for joining us. And we'll catch you guys on episode 130 next week. Take care.
Sweet. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.